Yeah. Why did this beast take it upon himself to kill black people? Why did this 18-year-old man, white man, decide to kill black people out of all the people on the earth he could kill? And why did this 18-year-old beast get taken in alive? And why isn't this beast being accused of terrorism? This is the year 2022. 2022 minus 18 is 2004. This man was born in 2004, 3 years after the World Trade Center attacks. We was in the Afghanistan-Iraq war. Terrorism against the so-called Islamic extremists was on the front news. George W. Bush was president. This was when this person was born. By the time this person turned 4 years old, his president was Barack Obama. By the time this person turned 12 years old, his president was Trump. By the time he turned 16 years old, his president was Joe Biden. In 18 years, the sole focus of this person's hatred was black people. What that tells me is white society is deeply entrenched and ingrained in hatred and racism against black people. This is what they teach their children. This is what their children observe from white society. This person grew up in New York State, which is predominantly Democrat. The Northeast. And he learned by 18 years old how to hate blacks and to annihilate blacks. Not Hispanics, not illegal immigrants, not Arabs, not Russians, blacks. Black Americans in the United States. I guess you could say, okay, so-called Black Lives Matter, the propaganda, so-called looting, whatever. But it's something deeper than that. I meet a lot of people from Africa, other countries. These people are young. Even when I was in college, these people was not even 20 years old. They had a preconceived hatred, vitriol against black Americans because this is their culture. This is what they're groomed to think and behave and to act towards before they even get to America. They want to kill blacks, take over black communities. You are Akatas, what they say, Akatas. You are whatever they say. This is what is being taught to these young people, to hate blacks. You say, why do everybody in the world seem to have a hatred against this one particular group of people, the black so-called American people? You know, why is white society teaching their kids the hatred and racism against this one group? You know, the group of people who have for the past at least 200 years have been stepped on, deprived, brutalized, you know, exterminated, prevented. And this person who was born less than 20 years ago, sole focus was to kill blacks. That means that this is the essence of the white culture in America. This is like their, what you call it, their rites of passage. You know, they have to show extreme brutality, callous, hatred, whatever you want to, whatever words you want to use, whatever pronouns, adverbs you want to use against blacks to be accepted, to be elevated. They're going to, you know, create a GoFundMe to reward this person for doing his work against blacks. And the reason I think this is the reality is because of jealousy, the desire to acquire something that somebody else has, which is envy and avarice. I read this book called The Jinn of the in Islam. It's a book that's called The Jinn, and there's a story about when Noah created the ark, when he built the ark to save humanity. They say Satan was on the ark too, because Satan is a jinn. And Satan told him, there's 5 things that cause man to fall, but I'll share with you 3 of those 5. And Noah prayed to God about it. And God told Noah to tell Satan, there's no need for the 3. Tell him to tell you the 2 he don't want to tell you. And Satan told Noah, he say, man fall because of envy and avarice. He said envy became an accursed shaitan and was cast out. And because of avarice, he got what he needed out of Adam. Avarice is the desire for something you can't really attain. Insatiable desire. Envy is to desire something that somebody else have or has. You see what I'm saying? The Caucasians who came here from Europe, they saw how wealthy and powerful and intelligent the black inhabitants of America was and is. They saw the cities that were built, the technology that they developed, the culture, the food, the clothes, the fashion, everything. And they desire to get that at any means. If you read the ordinance of 1787, it tells you written that when they expanded westward from the 13 colonies after they defeated the British in the American Revolution, they had 3 ways to acquire land, Indian land, because they say Indians cannot be stripped of their land only if you fight them in war and defeat them. That's the only way you could take the land from the Indians. So what they was doing was they would just start these these pretexts, these wars that they just created. Like in Chicago, they had the Fort Dearborn massacre, where Caucasians dressed up as Indians and killed their own women and children and blamed it on the Indians just to have a so-called just war. But in the War 1812, the Potawatomi Indians actually defeated the American army, and they had to compromise. The United States had to compromise with Britain, because Britain, supported the Indians, and they had to agree to pay the Indians money forever, as long as they lived in this region in the Midwest. But other territories, they actually won the wars, using international law, conquering, possession. They was able to get those territories, but they couldn't get some territories. And in Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, this whole region, they didn't really defeat the Indians to get the land. So that land still belongs to them, which was the so-called American Negro. And also the history has been classified. So you're not allowed to learn the true history and identity of these people, because if you knew the true history, you will see the magnificent wealth that is still being used and utilized by these broke Europeans who came here with $2 in their pocket. Our Governor Pritzker in Illinois, he came to the United States. His grandfather came here with nothing, $6 in his pocket. Now he got billions. You didn't bring billions. You acquired the land and the wealth that was already here. It was distributed. A wealth transfer happened with the Homestead Act, which all of our land and resources was given to broke, useless thieves, Europeans. But this is the source of their vitriol and hatred, because they see, as long as the so-called American Negro lives and exists, they can take back what was stolen from them. And they can't stand to see that even without the land and the resources, the so-called American Negro, whatever they want to call you, is still able to create and acquire wealth, culture, develop new techniques and methods, while they just sitting back living off of the the legacy that they stole from your ancestors. But what if you was able to get the legacy that they stole from you and what you have now? What is going to leave them? Back in the caves in Europe, starving, potato famine. So everything they do, the Africans, the Europeans, the Hispanics, the Asians, all of them are plotting against the wealthiest people on earth who have a legitimate claim to this land in America, possibly lands in other countries, but who dominate the world culture, who dominate, who actually is leading the world with music and whatever. But this man, 18 years old, usually you start college at 18. Most people who start college, they really don't know what the world is about. I would see if you was in Chicago or a state like California, where it's like gang infested, so you learn to have a certain hatred, a healthy hatred towards certain communities, certain neighborhoods, certain so-called gangs. You don't really know these people, but you know they oppositions. But you don't really just have a hatred for like a whole group of people. And even with the so-called hatred of this so-called group, you might still be friends with these people from that group. You went to college or school, whatever happened, but it ain't like you just want to annihilate these people from the earth. And these Caucasians who have this hatred, a lot of them never really even had personal issues with blacks. It's just propaganda that's being taught to them, indoctrinated to them. It's almost like it's an institution, possibly starting when they less than 1 year old. They're being taught by their mothers. Like this Kyle Rittenhouse was driven to Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin, by his mother with a AR-15 to go kill people. His own mother brought him down there, and she did not go to jail. These white women, these white men, white society as a whole is the problem. But I wouldn't even just say it's white society as a whole, because we have Africans who come to the United States with a preconceived hatred against the black people because they was taught this is in their culture. They come here to say, okay, they have the same motivation as the European, because they see the wealth and what the so-called American black people was able to acquire without them, and they looking at what they have in their countries, and they want what we have. They want to come and take our communities. They want our women. They want our culture, our food, our tastes that they couldn't really do for themselves. And the hatred, the vitriol is their motivation and their drive. It's it's what keeps them empowered to do that, to gentrify, to take things from us, the Caucasians, the Africans, whoever. The hatred is necessary for them to, they don't have guilt. They actually try to villainize the so-called American Negro, even though we didn't do the 9/11 attack. We're not the ones invading countries or flying planes around, dropping guns and missiles. We're not doing any of this stuff. But the only thing we do have is the most powerful and we have the most valuable asset on the planet, which is our own identity, our mind, our history, our culture, which everybody in the world wants. Our hair, you see what I'm saying? They want everything that we have, because everybody in the world don't have the same history and story of overcoming, perseverance, being victorious, being successful, being great in a myriad amount of ways, you know. And they just want to, because they can't do these things, because they don't have the same experience, they didn't have to actually struggle and suffer or they just didn't have the drive or the motivation or the capabilities. They just want to destroy us and take our identity. The body snatchers. They want us out the way. They come to our communities in Chicago, our houses. They see how nice they look, and they forget about Africa. They forget about where they came from. They forget about Ireland. They want to stay here forever. Eastern Europeans like Pritzker, he never going back. He living off of somebody else's legacy. He was given wealth from a criminal organization, a terrorist state who committed genocide and larceny, thievery, and continue to deny and deprive indigenous people in their own land in the United States. And these other groups, these other foreigners, these other immigrants are in cahoots or in conspiracy with the terrorist state of the United States against the blacks. You never see the Caucasians going, really, I wouldn't say never. We might have a situation where a Caucasian might go and attack an Asian, or an immigrant might do this and that. But they never come and burn their whole cities down like they did in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Destroy their whole economic base. Prevent them from actually being. If you are successful in your own effort, you deserve to bask in that. When a group of people or a government strip you from that, that is a crime against humanity. The United States have been committing crimes against humanity, against the American Negro, since their inception, since the American Revolution. Since these peasants from Europe decided to rob us of everything we have, but they can't take our mind. They can't. They want to take your mind. They want to take your brain, kill you, take your brain, take your eyes, take your organs, and try to create a Frankenstein and try to understand. Well, they create artificial intelligence to try to mimic the mind of the Negro. All the artificial intelligence is doing is just looking at data and mimicking, just like the Beatles do. The Beatles came and mimicked Chuck Berry. Just mimicked what he did. They wasn't able to take the music any further than that. They're not no Jimi Hendrix who could take the rock and roll into a whole nother level. They not no Prince who could add to the, because this is not them. This is not their, it's just not in their DNA. It's a genetic thing. It's a spiritual thing, but you have to have that code in your blood. It's a nobility thing. All you could do is look back and watch and look how he do it and try to copy what he doing. But you can never take that to another level. And this is why they want to annihilate the blacks. Cause they want to take everything. They want to put on your skin like that movie Get Out. That's what they really want to do. It's not, they're not satisfied with just living in the buildings you built or living in the cities that you built. They want to be in the body that they want to be in the body that we was born in. And they want to be in the house and the cities and the buildings, the culture, the technology, the music, the food. They would just want it all. You see what I'm saying? They just want it all. But that's about it though.